I'm Rob McKendrick, and this is the Arreoblue Data Podcast. I'm here today with Tim. Tim's from Retail Trust. Some of you may have already seen one of our podcasts that feature Chris from Retail Trust and know about that organisation. Tim and I will be speaking today about the use of responsible AI and how they're planning to make more use of it in the future. So Tim, tell us a little bit about the Retail Trust and specifically about how you use data and AI.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having us. So Tim Walpole, Head of Data and Creative Technology for the Retail Trust. I've been there for nearly coming up a year and a half now. And as part of my journey, I'm probably going to go back a bit about why I'm there, how we got there. So I've worked for 30 plus years as an IT consultant, always looking at that bit that says, how do you use technology to make a difference? So not just tech for tech's sake, but actually making a difference. And a couple of years ago, Retail Trust invited the organisation that I used to work for to a hackathon, saying, "Hey, we think the retail's a rather unhappy place to be. We think we've got a bit of data, and we think potentially with that data we can do something about it." So a little bit of research into the data. Yes, retail's second unhappiest industry. Yeah, you can probably do something with that data to make a difference. So kind of what do we do from there? Understand a bit about Retail Trust. So Retail Trust, as Chris has probably said, formed in 1892, brought together by a set of people that said, if we look after people in the retail industry, then it's a good thing to do. Move forward a bit, and of course that ethos hasn't changed. But technology has moved on a bit, of course, since then, 1892 to now. And so the question is, what can we use with that data to make a difference to the lives of people? So the journey continued, which says, look, let's build out a really modern data lakehouse, because you need to get your data into a decent place to be able to do something about it. And as part of that journey was, let's build out a modern lakehouse. Let's use that technology to understand what's going on with retailers. We can delve into that a bit deeper. But the journey takes on to, well, the fact we've got this data platform, I really want to make a difference to the lives of people. People and the planet are really important to me. So as I said a couple of years ago, it was let's move on and become a full-time member of Retail Trust. So for the past couple of years, it's been, let's build out that platform. Let's understand how we can use that data to make a difference to the lives of everyone in the retail industry.
Cool, thank you. So I suppose we should start with, what type of data do you have? Because I know it's quite sensitive data, a lot of it, isn't it?
Yeah, so let's backtrack a bit, I suppose. 200 retailers, 650,000 or so colleagues, and it's every single interaction that we have with those colleagues. So firstly, it's potentially about any of the helplines they may phone the helpline. They need in the moment support. So every time they phone the helpline, what's it about? So all that data, as you said, really sensitive data, potentially counselling notes, etc. So there's one major feed. The other side of it is we take surveys from people about how you're feeling. So we have our happiness survey. And that allows us to understand how colleagues are feeling, particularly in that workplace, but to be able to say, look, how are you feeling about yourself? How are you feeling about the business? Are you being abused? So retail industry, of course, is abuse in the workplace is a massive thing. Do you feel stressed? Do you get the support you need? So all that information really we've got on that side. Information around financial grants and things. So people come to the Retail Trust and say, I want to be able to have support to be able to support me through financial need. And what is that for? That's really interesting in itself. Why are you applying for financial aid? White goods, for instance, or council tax arrears. Some bleak statistics about why people need some of that. And then the other final side of it is actually proactive content. So we've talked about this is all the crisis content, but actually there's an awful lot of proactive content there for content to be able to support you before you go into crisis. So maybe an example, a piece of content on the website to be able to say support you as you're going through the menopause. So if you read that, it helps you And that's what we're really trying to do, is use that data to say, actually, if we can get more people being proactive, they don't go into crisis. It's a good thing, not only for them, but of course for the organisations. So quite a rich set of data.
And you're trusted to hold that data on behalf of the colleague you're interacted with, but you don't pass that directly on to the retailer. You summarize that up and provide them with trends and graphs and dashboards, don't you?
Yeah, so that's, I mean, so one of the key ethoses is the data as it comes into the data lake. By the time it comes in, the first thing is 100% anonymized. So by the time it comes in, I can't tell you where it's come from. I don't know who it is. All I know is potentially some of the demographics. And that's a really key part of the ethos, is that anything we have in that data lake is 100% anonymized. And then similarly, as we flow that through the platform, we make sure that by the time we produce any information for the retailers, whether it be stats on who's using our service, what type of services, anytime we drop below 5 people in a cohort, we can't give that information out, because you don't want, of course, to be able to re-identify anyone.
That's great. So, and as a retailer, how would they use that data then?
Yeah, so the services we've kind of touched on is really there for employees, but as you say, we provide that data back to the retailers. And there's a reason for that, is we want to be able to say, look, this is what we think you should do. Here's some of your data. And then they can use that to be able to impact the lives of their people. And so this is circle that says, hopefully we get things better. The way we built all that platform was asking, with some build partners, what do you want to see on that platform? And we could have just provided a data and insights platform that has a richer set of data. But they haven't got time to have a look at that. So the dashboards we give them are really, really insightful. We touch on to three key areas, is what's happening in your organisation with regards to the services that people are using. What are they telling us about themselves? What impact does this have back to your organisation with regards to 3 key areas? Absenteeism, presenteeism, i.e. turning up to work and not potentially giving of your full self because something else is on your mind. And of course, colleague churn. They're the 3 things in retail that really make a difference. And if we can somehow change that slightly to reduce absenteeism by, let's say, just 10%, that's a massive impact back to that retailer. So we give them not only that data, but we then give the business impact with regards to that in financial terms. So we have a model that says we can turn what we know about people. What does that mean with reduced absenteeism, presenteeism, and colleagues churn? So there's the business impact. Great for the CFO, for instance. The other part we give them is what's the social and economic impact of colleagues using our services. So every time someone uses our service, there's an impact to them, but of course, impact not only to their family, to the business and things, the wider GDP, maybe reduction in GP services, etc. So using some government standards, we managed to track that back and give that social and economic impact back. And finally, the real part is we then, through the use of AI, through trends, etc., we understand all that data and then say to the retailer, here's a summary of what's happening in your organization. And here's what you should do. And we give them the campaigns on a regular basis to be able to say, if you do this, this is what you need to do. This will have an effect. And we track that back and saying, by doing that campaign, this is the effect it has back into your organization and your people.
And this sounds like you must have a huge team of people to do this. How does that work?
I wish so. There's a team of about 4 of us, 4 or 5 of us. It's a really small team. I think the key part to that is you need to use technology in a very, very clever way to be able to build this. So the platform as we built it was, how do I get data into my platform in a really simplistic way? Mm-hmm. But right from the initial thought process, it was, we need to use, before the large language models came out, we need to use AI. We need to understand data and trends through machine learning and data science, because we cannot do it all ourselves. We can't write 200 campaigns a month through a human, so we need to be able to use technology to do that. So as we built out that platform, about 3 months into the build, it was, here comes the large language models and ChatGPT. We pivoted really, really quickly to say, yeah, let's make sure we're using the latest technology, large language models, to be able to do some of the work that humans would be doing, probably more efficiently, and therefore be able to do it with a smaller headcount.
Yeah, I mean, quite often you see people coming to AI and large language models from the point of view of, I've read about them, I've heard about them, and trying to find a problem. But for you, it really has been necessary because, first of all, as you say, you've got a small team, but also you're working with the HR departments and retailers who are also very pressed for time, not necessarily data savvy. So they're also looking for things to help them, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a win-win situation really. So the retailers that now have our dashboards that use that on a regular basis, they quite often take that data and provide it into their board packs and things. Being able to easily run a campaign, which makes a difference, is to them a game breaker, particularly when they can see the fact that the impact that it has afterwards. So yeah, it would not have been possible without the use of technology, I think. Being able to get that data in front of the right people is important as well. Hence building it in a way that allows us to build it together. So it's not a product we've built for ourselves; it's a product we'll build in combination with the retailers.
And I know we've been talking for a number of months, and you were just saying earlier on you finally cracked one of the hurdles around using large language models and the where we get into the safety and the sensitivity of your data. Would you like to talk a little bit about that aspect?
Yeah, I think it's important whenever you talk about AI and large language models to make sure you do it in a responsible and ethical way. We started with that premise at the beginning. As I said, I've been working for about 10 years, probably actually, with conversational AI and things. I used to talk around the ethics of conversational AI, and then the large language models just get released, and suddenly that's almost not talked about. But our whole premise of what we deliver is anything that comes out must be honest, truthful, such that and have a human in the loop as well. So our current process says, look, we need to be able to get data. We put data in, it goes through a large language model, something comes out at the end. We need to make sure that's honest, open, and truthful, and then we vet it. That journey we went on to get something that's honest and truthful was a really interesting journey. So right at the beginning, we started on the journey with, let's ask some questions around this data, and the data we got out was either incorrect because of, as we know, hallucinations, which are less thankful now. But how did we get around that? So by working with Microsoft closely and our partners to be able to say, let's understand what's going wrong. Let's understand how to tweak it to be able to get the right answer. But one of the other challenges we had was quite a lot of the content we deal with is of a sensitive nature. And we use Azure OpenAI, and of course it has its guardrails built in, such that as soon as you start talking about something that may be sensitive, maybe around abuse or something like that, it decides it's not going to talk to you, which is a good thing. Sexual harassment or something like that, I'm not going to talk to you about this either on the input or the output. So as part of that, we have worked with Microsoft, and we've shown that we need to be able to have more control, and so we've had permission to be able to turn off, for instance, the blocking on sensitive topics. But it's a journey, and it's a journey we'll go on. I'm sure it's a journey we'll go on with other models as we go through. But it's really important. Those guardrails are important, but more importantly, that responsible AI and ethical AI is really important. And as part of that, working with you guys to put our responsible and AI and ethical policy in place has been a game changer.
Good to hear. It's good to hear. The other topic that's very close to your heart, I know, is the impact on the planet of models. We hear about models that take extortionate amounts of time, months to train models to the latest versions. We talk we talk about the energy and the water impact of these things. I know that all the time you've been working, you've been looking at some of these impacts. Would you like to tell us a little bit about those as well?
Yeah, I think I started at the beginning saying, as much as I'm with Retail Trust for people, my passion is also in the planet, to make sure that when we use technology, we use it in a way that harms the planet as least as possible. And as you architect and design something, you need to really think about what you're doing. Yes, AI does have an impact. Every time you call a large language model, every time you produce an image, it has an impact. Every single model is different. So as part of that, we've worked with an organisation called Go Code Green, who has looked at our AI pipeline, and we understand every single bit of impact that we have. We understand the carbon footprint that happens for every single piece of that pipeline. And the reason for doing that is we want to understand what is our impact. What are we doing? Interestingly, humans have an impact as well. And there is an interesting conversation about should I use a human to do something or should I use AI? And if you look at that not only in terms of job opportunities, etc., but also that carbon impact. Interestingly, the carbon impact of us using the AI, remember architected in a really clever way, is actually really little. Using a human to do that would actually be would have a higher carbon impact. But it's something we need to do on a regular basis. And I'll give you an example. There's two things that we have done as part of this. The first is when we started this journey, we had an assumption that retailers may want to log on every day and look at their dashboards. Good assumption. As part of that journey, we realized that maybe they log on twice a week. So there's no point in doing a data refresh 5 times a week or whatever. So we now refresh 3 times a week just to be able to do that. Therefore, the impact of our carbon footprint, of course, just drops. And the same type of thing for instance, all our dashboards, they have to refresh. And rather than just saying, hey, we're going to refresh at 12 o'clock, we actually go and look at what is the carbon intensity, when is it lowest, when is it windy or sunny, because that's when the wind turbines come out, etc., and the solar, and the carbon footprint therefore producing energy at that point is lower. So we use that type of technology to reschedule. So we're doing scheduling based on carbon as well as reducing the impact by changing it. I don't think it's something you can stop. You need to do it constantly. So as we build out the next part, it'll be let's do a review of how we're doing. Could we do it better? And then what are we going to do with that carbon footprint afterwards is always in the back of our mind as well.
Yeah, I think it's really important when you understand that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. So be that carbon footprint or from a cost point of view or even from an ethical point of view and the impact on an individual, just because you can replace somebody doesn't mean you necessarily should. What's coming next? I mean, you're right at the forefront of using large language models. Would you like to talk to us about some of the things you've got coming up? As much as you can, obviously.
Indeed. So I think the news says it everywhere, doesn't it? That agentic AI is 2020 to 2025.
Buzzword.
Yeah, it is the buzzword. I started my journey on agentic AI sometime in 2024, starting to think about, is this where I really want to be going? Our current AI pipeline is very prompt heavy. That's how you generated things. And now we're starting to say, let's break that down into really small modules that do particular things. So, for example, I may have a module that an AI agent that just says, translate this. Takes in a piece of content, translates it to the language you want. I might have another one that says, validate that that one I've just translated is translated correctly. So all these different models do different things. And we're just starting to build our first version of our agentic AI pipeline. And that'll be to do particular things. It'll be able to say, I want to run a campaign. I might want to run it for a particular retailer. That retailer will have their own brand. It will have their own tone of voice. It will have its own examples of some content. Probably have different demographics that like being addressed in a different way. We feed all that in, and my agentic AI will pick out all the different bits of that. And then as part of that pipeline, that agentic AI will then say, I'm going to validate this, and if it's not right, I'm going to send it around the loop. I'd imagine we'll probably use different models to do that. So I might be using Azure OpenAI GPT-4 or something, and then Claude or Bedrock or something to validate it. And then it will go through a process that allows us to do human feedback. So we will then be able to vet everything that comes through. That feedback will then go back into the next time we do it. So over time, it will just get better and better. So it's almost self-healing till we get to a point where we're comfortable with the data that's coming out. So that's what's being built at the moment. It's incredibly exciting. The agents that themselves are really small. They're really easy to create. Compared to the AI pipeline that took us 3, 4, 5 months to build, with proof of concept stuff in weeks, with a tenth of the amount of code. So really incredible that we can start doing that. Where's it going in the future? I think agentic AI is going to be the future. There are going to be very, very small AI agents that do particular tasks. You just call into it. The AI model will decide what to run. That's what we're doing already. We're using Databricks Mosaic, and it's model serving. We just give it all our agents, and it decides what to do. Watching it work is quite wonderful. And I can just see over the next year we're going to build that out not only for our retailers, but I can start seeing that we'll also start bringing this into the business, so that from maybe within the business, we can say, give me what's happening, trend analysis around this. We can use it for sales. We can use it for marketing. Just going back into the data, agentic AI, and then feeding that back out. So I think it's going to be an exciting year this year.
It's great. It's fascinating. A little bit more about how you think that could impact the retailers that you work with. Do you see the impact of AI on the retailers and on their staff at the moment?
So we already know that running campaigns makes a difference. We also know that retailers are time poor, as we've discussed. So we have been working with a couple of build partners on exactly this. And for one of those retailers, they did our January campaign using our agentic AI pipeline. Couple of feedback loops. So we sent them some content, and they said, "Oh, I don't quite like this." Mentioned social media when they have their own social media platform, so they fed us back. We just put that into the loop. Next time it produced a content article, and they sent it out without a change. They're the human in the loop. They verified it. We also did it multilingual. So we sent it out in Romanian and Polish, and we doubled the number of people that they usually get on that campaign. So they've already known that this is the impact. We then can ratify that with the business impact. We can ratify that with a social impact, and therefore this is the effect that campaign has had. They've asked us to do another one, surprise, surprise. So already we've tested with a couple of retailers it's working, and the impact is increased engagement, and we can therefore show reduced absenteeism, presenteeism, and churn. So something good not only for the retailers, but really good for the retail industry.
And what about the retailers' use of AI? Do you think that there are things the retailers themselves could learn for you in their use?
It's a really interesting one. I think retailers they'd love to use it. It's a technology that I think most organizations are really struggling to get hold of. What do I do with it? How do I do it? What's use case? Is it going to make use? And I think that's one of the major challenges. But working for Retail Trust, I love talking to organizations about this. So they talked to us and they said, how could we use this in a business? So I think it's one of those things that as we do stuff, we feed it back into the retail industry. Talking on things like this is useful as well. But I think it's part of what I should be doing. This is not just for me and Retail Trust. We should be doing this for the wider retail industry. So being able to work with them is really useful. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Tim.
My pleasure. Nice to be here.
Thank you. Thank you.